Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, everyone between Jason, welcome back to the rundown, a 10-minute testing rebuff for the TCG. There are still so many decks to talk about from Chaos Origins, and if you've been keeping an eye on the channel, there's one I've been kind of obsessed with lately. So I figured while I'm already making you watch every single second of the games I played on stream, I should also show you the entire deck. So, without further ado, please allow me to introduce to you Invoked.
そいつを始末しろ見せてあげるよ本物の召喚魔術その一辺を
That's right, today we're taking a look at Invoked, a classic fan favorite that got a lot of powerful support in Chaos Origins, and genuinely a deck that I could not believe I liked as much as I did. I was never a big fan of normal summoning Alistair, but something about playing this deck just really spoke to me. It could be just the nostalgia blast of normal summoning Alistair, maybe it's the versatility of all the different fusion plays we can do, or maybe it's how well the deck plays going both first and second. But I've really been enjoying this deck, specifically Pure. There is, of course, a quote-unquote spellcaster slop deck that plays Magistus, Fairy Tail, Diabellstar, Azamina, Summon Sork, and all that stuff. And I didn't really want to do that for Invoked because we already featured that on the channel with Fairy Tail. Picture of thumbnail on screen here if you want to go check that video out. Anyway, before we get into the card by card, I want to give a quick shout out to Danilo, the winner of the EU Points Playoff, whose deck I basically took, gave a try, and made some changes to. So, to start us off, we're on 3 copies of the OG Alistair the Invoker, 3 of the brand new Alistair the Reminiscent. If this card is in your hand, you can target 1 Spellcaster monster or 1 Fusion monster to the field, special summon this card, and if you do, target a monster gains 1000 attack until the end of this turn. If this card is normal or special summon, or flipped face up, you can bash 1 Invoked monster from your extra deck, add 1 Invocation or 1 spell that mentions it from your deck to your hand. You can only use each effect of Alistair Reminiscent once per turn. Our brand new Alistair here is both a starter and an extender, being able to not only be normal summoned, but also being able to special summon if we or our opponent controls either a spellcaster or fusion monster. Then it can either add us the OG Invocation or one of the brand new Invocation spells. Next up, we have 3 copies of Iwas the Divine Spirit of Law, a retrain of one of the funniest Magistus fusion monsters. You can match this card from your hand or field, add 1 Alistair monster from your deck to your hand, then as this effect was activated on the field, immediately after its effect resolves, you can normal summon 1 spellcaster monster. If it's a fusion monsters, you control sent to the graveyard, except at battle while this card is in your graveyard, except during the damage step, you can special summon this card, then you can fusion summon 1 invoked monster from your extra deck, using monsters from your hand or field. You'll use each effect Iwas once per turn. Once again, this is another starter. This card can find us one of our Alistairs to get started that way, or if it's already been spent and it's in the grave, it can be reborn when a fusion monster leaves the field to then fusion summon another invoked fusion. The last of our new main deck monsters is Viracom, the Divine Spirit of Artifice. If you have an Alistair monster in your field or graveyard, you can special summon this card from your hand. If this card is special summoned, you can set 1 Invocation or 1 spell that mentions it from your deck. When your opponent activates card or effect in response to your fusion monster's effect activation quick effect, you can banish this card you control, and if you do, negate that opponent's effect, and if you do that, banish it. You can use each effect of Viracom once per turn. Viracom is sort of like a soft garnet for the deck. We do search her through our normal combo, and then she helps us reset invocations or spell that mentions it. And then to the rest of our monsters, we're on 1 Crowley, 2 Regulus, and 1 Sorcerer of the Swamp. Sorcerer of the Swamp is one of those cards that I really wasn't sure about on the original list. I had originally cut it for just 3 Regulus, but after doing more testing, I figured it was good enough to have at least 1 copy of, because it does some good like 2-card combos that are a little bit nicer to have than just raw grabbing 3 Regulus. Alright, then the hand traps. We have 3 Ash, 3 Fulos, 2 Perulia, and 2 Droll Knockbird. These are the exact ratios Danilo played at the points playoff. I thought they felt really good during testing, so I left them as is. Then to our spells, we have 1 Empire of Endymion, 2 Invocation, and 2 Invocation Sword. Quick play. Fusion summon 1 fusion monster from your extra deck using monsters you control. If summoning an invoked fusion monster this way, you can also return monsters from any banishment to the graveyard as material. During your main phase of this card in your graveyard, you can target 1 Alistair monster or Invocation in your graveyard, shuffle this card into the deck, and if you do, add that target to your hand. You can use each effect Invocation Sword once per turn. So this is our prime search off the brand new Alistair, and the best set off the Viracom. Basically, we'll be having this in rotation all the time to both do combo on our turn, and to use as an interaction on the opponents. Sword also functions as an extender, so during our first turn when we do the combo, we'll be using Sword's both field and graveyard effect to keep extending, and as well, we can use it for follow-up after spending our second sword on the opponent's turn. Then we're on 3 copies of Sacred Spirit Sword Iwas. Activate one of these effects, but you cannot declare attacks for the rest of the turn except with fusion monsters. First, summon 1 Iwas Divine Spirit of Law from your deck or graveyard, take 1 Alistair monster from your deck and either send it to the graveyard or banish it, look at 3 of your face on cards in your opponent's extra deck, and if you do, banish 1 of them. And you can only activate 1 effect per turn. Most of the time you'll be using Iwas for the first effect, which lets you get the monster Iwas onto the field, but there's other versatility to the Sacred Spirit Sword, where obviously if we already have everything, we can just use the third effect to just snipe a card out of the opponent's extra. I hear Cashier Unicorn is pretty good, but do not underestimate the second effect of taking Alistair, sending it to the grave, or banishing it. If we use those effects, that just turns on both Invocation and Sword as long as we have any other monster. Then to finish off their spells, we have 3 Magical Meltdown, 3 Super Poly, 1 Terraforming, and 1 Called by the Grave. Alright, to the extra deck. We're playing 1 Alistair the Invoker of Madness, Endymion the Crescent Magistus, Artemis the Magistus Moon Maiden, SP Little Knight, Sea Monster Thesis, Invoked Raijin, Invoked Mechaba, Kaliga, Agoides, Elysium, the brand new Invoked Oceanus. Materials 1 Alistair plus a Dark or Water monster. While this card is the main monster zone, your opponent's monsters cannot target monsters for attack except this one. And while this card is in the extra monster zone, any monster sent to your opponent's graveyard is banished instead. Banish this card from your graveyard, then target 1 fusion monster control and then attack directly this turn. You can use each effect of Invoked Oceanus once per turn. So yes, this is essentially Dimensional Fissure on a body, as long as it's in the EMZ. But let's not underestimate Battle Effect. This is basically part of a quote-unquote lock, where we make it so the opponent cannot activate effects thanks to Kaliga, and then we protect Kaliga with Oceanus, because once they're out of monster effects, only being able to have 1, we just set up Oceanus and Kaliga on field. Basically, we're hoping that they just can't swing over this 3k Oceanus. Following that, we are 1 Invoked Bay Baron, 1 Alistair monster plus 1 Light or Earth. This card special summon, you can add 1 Viracom, the Divine Spirit of Artifice, or 1 Gamma Summon from your deck to your hand. Then you can banish 1 monster from either grave. You can banish this card from your graveyard, target 1 fusion monster you control. The monster your opponent controls loses attack equal to target monster's attack until the end of this turn. You can only use each effect of Invoked Bay Baron once per turn. We're also playing 1 Invoked Sorath, 1 Alistair monster plus a Fire or Wind. During the main phase quick effect, you can target 1 level 6 or lower monster in either graveyard special summon to your field in defense position but negate its effects. This card is in your graveyard. You can fusion summon 1 Invoked Fusion monster from your extra deck by banishing this card from your graveyard and monsters from your field or graveyard as material. You can use each effect to Invoke Sorath once per turn. Usually you'll be using both its first effect to Reborn and the effect to fuse on the same turn. Once we start resolving things like Sword, we'll get him back into rotation and just be able to pop off from there. And our last 2 cards on the extra is 2 copies of Hyper Invoked Aeon, 2+ fusion monsters with different attributes. This card is fusion summon. You can banish cards from the field and graveyard the number of monsters to use as material. Then, if you use 3 or more materials, you can look at your opponent's extra deck and banish up to 3 cards from it. Quick effect, you can declare 1 attribute. All other monsters in the field become that attribute until the end of this turn. You can use 1 Hyper Invoked Aeon effect per turn and only once that turn. So Aeon is actually just an insane card. Not only can it actually be used as a super poly target, it also shines as how powerful of an interruption is. We can very easily set up our grave or banished with 3 different attributes of fusion monsters, which means when we summon Aeon, we get 3 banishes, and we also get to loop the opponent's extra for 3. And then also against some decks, the attribute change effect does kind of floodgates on them. Then we have the side deck. We're on 2 Ghost Ogre, 2 Ghost Spell, 1 Hermes Feather Duster, triple Tax Talent, 2 Pot of Sloth, 3 Evenly Matched, 1 Gamma Summon, banish 1 Alistair monster or 1 fusion monster from your graveyard. Special summon 1 Invoked monster from your extra deck, ignoring summon conditions, but banish it during the end phase. If a monster is banished face up, all those cards in your graveyard, except during damage step, you can banish this card, target 1 of your banished Invoked monsters, summon it, with each effect of Gamma Summon once per turn. Again, this is an absolutely insane card, probably one of the best cards in the Genesis build of Invoked, being able to cheat out any of our guys, and then in the end phase, when we have to banish that guy, it can then trigger again to bring back any of our other invoked monsters. Then the last 3 cards inside are 3 Solemn Accusation. So that's all the cards. Why don't we check out some games? Alright, here we are, game number 1. Our opponent is on Snake Eyes Tenpai. Yeah, sure, whatever. We're going first, and we open Sacred Spirit Sword Iwas, Divine Spirit of the Law, Sorcerer of the Swamp, Gamma Summon, and Triple Tactics Talent. we're going to go ahead and lead off with our Iwas spell card, which immediately gets Ash Blossom. Sure. Well, that's fine. Let's go ahead and talent look at the hand. We reveal Hydra, Pokedraco, Wayware, There's a Will, and Droll and Lock Bird. Sure. Go ahead and get shuffle away that Droll. Activate Iwas effect. Go ahead and add Alistair Reminiscent. Activate Sorcerer of the Swamp. Revealing Agoides, banishing the other Alistair. Then Alistair Reminiscent, targeting our Sorcerer, summoning himself, banishing Raijin to add Sword. Activate Sword, putting back Alistair in our fusion for Sorath. Sorath effect then targets Alistair, which we then link off for Artemis, and then add it back to our hand. Let's go ahead and normal summon Alistair, get ourselves Invocation. We can just kind of freestyle here since we know the opponent doesn't have any interaction here. Let's make Endymion, the Crescent Magician, attaching Artemis to add Crowley, to then use Crowley effect, special summoning himself to the field, and then fusion summoning. I'm going to go ahead and use Sorath to make a Mechaba, and Sorath effect engraved to summon a Baron. Baron's going to get us the Viracom, since we already have the Gamma summon in hand, and we just banish the Ash we could. Link off for Alistair. Special Viracom, set Sword. Invocation now, banishing Sorcerer and Baron for Agoides. Activate Invocation, get Alistair back in hand. Set Gamma and pass. So we have a monster negate thanks to Mechaba. We have, if they respond to our fusion monsters, a negate thanks to Viracom. Alistair Reminiscent is kind of just chilling on board, but he can be a target for Invocation. Agoides effect to destroy a monster, and Alistair the Invoker of Madness can search us an Invocation if one of our fusion monsters leaves the board. Alright, they're going to start off and draw for turn. We go Gamma Summon immediately for Kaliga. Alright, opponent, enjoy. So they Wayware There's a Will, revealing 1-for-1 Chandra Super Poly, and set rotation. Oh, and Imperm and Pydra. I don't know how many cards this reveals. Oh, there's Flamberge, so proof that they're on Snake Eyes. They, of course, add Super Poly to their hand and Super Poly away our Alistair and Alistair. Alright. They make Garura, they pitch Poplar. Poplar effect puts itself in the back row, and they lock themselves out of effects thanks to Kaliga. So they swing into the Viracom. Alright, sure. And then Gamma Summon triggers both effects. Sword, put everything back, summon Aeon. Aeon, banish everything on their board and 3 from their extra. And oh, wouldn't you know, they're only on 2 Biden and 1 of the level 10. And that's just goodbye to the entire Tenpai engine. Not exactly the most competitive deck in Snake Eyes Tenpai, but definitely a very fun game. So for game number 2, our opponent is on Elf Notes. We're going first again, and we open Solemn Accusation, Alistair Reminiscent, Call by the Grave, and Alistair the Invoker. We are certainly normal summoning Alistair this hand. Alright, let's go ahead and draw a standby main and normal summon that Alistair, adding ourselves Invocation. We'll then link it off for the Artemis the Moon Maiden, and then fire that Invocation to, wouldn't you know it, summon Mechaba. I bet you've never seen this play before. Alistair Reminiscent, target Mechaba to then banish Raijin to add Sword. Fire to fuse Raijin and Alistair for Sorath. Sorath revives Alistair to our board. Then get linked off for the Alistair Invoker Madness. We then use the Graveyard Effect Sorath, banishing for Baron, summoning it, and then using Alistair Invoker Madness to pitch a card and add ourselves another Invocation. We go ahead and add Viracom off the Baron effect. Then use Invocation to add back Alistair and shuffle itself away. We'll then use Viracom's effect to summon itself and set ourselves a copy of Sword. Link 2 for Endymion, the Crescent of Justice, equipping Artemis. Artemis effect, getting us Crowley. Crowley will summon itself to the board and then immediately fusion someone with our Alistair in the EMZ for Oceanus. We'll then fire Sword effect, shuffle back to add another guy to our hand. Firing Invocation, banishing our Raijin and Endymion for Elysium. Set Solemn Accusation and pass. So we have both a spell and monster negate for Mechaba, Oceanus being a Floodgate, and Elysium who's threatening a board wipe. And of course, if they respond to any of our fusion monsters, they get negated by Viracom. They go ahead and summon Tinia, which gets them Welcome Home, which they then use a special Power Patron to then synchro summon into Strelitzia. I'm not sure, I've never played Elf Notes, but let's go ahead and Mechaba negate and banish. They then reveal the yellow one, which we immediately Elysium, and you know, that just sets up the Omni Gate, and we can't have that. Much quicker game than the previous one, and definitely going to be a much quicker game than our game 3. But I think this really shows how hard it is to break through the Invoked board. Okay, so for game number 3, our opponent is on Chaos Ritual Branding. Probably one of the best decks in the current format. We're going first. We open Invocation, Ash Blossom Joyous Spring, Gamma Summon, Iwas, and Magical Meltdown. Let's go ahead and lead off with our activation of Magical Meltdown to add Alistair to our hand. We will then normal summon Alistair, see if we can get any kind of interaction on the opponent. We add the second Invocation to our hand, and they don't respond. Alright, let's go Iwas effect, banishing for the other Alistair. Link off for Artemis, which then our original Alistair gets banished by Magnemite. Okay, that's fine. We did just add Reminiscence, so we go Reminiscence effect, targeting Artemis, banishing Raijin, adding Sword. Have you ever seen this one before? Let's go ahead and fire Sword, put our guys back into the graveyard, summon Sorath, to then reborn Alistair, linking off for Endymion. Endymion equips Artemis, which adds Crowley. Again, stop me if you heard this before. Crowley effect, summoning itself, and then fusing off with the Sorath for Mechaba. We then reborn Iwas just for some extra material, make Babaron, add ourselves Viracom. Viracom summoning itself, setting us a sword from deck. Next up we go Sorath effect, then fusion summon Elysium, setting up our banished with 3 different attributes. Add back Alistair, set 2 cards, fire Invocation, and wouldn't you know, back into the MZ we have Oceanus once again. Magnemite resolves, getting them a Druisworm, which could be dangerous, but thanks to Oceanus, if this Druisworm leaves the field while Oceanus is on board, we will not get anything sent. They draw for turn and a special Ecclesia, and immediately synchro summon for Chaos Angel. This is a light dark Chaos Angel, which, if you can tell by the numbers on our board, is not exactly something we can out. They go ahead and banish the Oceanus, normal summon Fallen Ababas, which I then Mechaba. Now let me defend myself here. I thought Magical Meltdown was going to protect Albaz from being negated. So we also chain Oceanus, we also chain the Elysium to banish their monsters. So they reveal Lubellion, go ahead and send it, which we dash. Last card in hand is Albion the Shroud Dragon, which they send. They send Fallen the Virtuous, targeting it with Brand Retribution to add it back to their hand. We chain Sword to summon Aeon, use Aeon effect, but they chain the Fallen the Virtuous, which means we can negate it with Viracom. They do still get the send, but let's go ahead and just banish what's in their grave, take a look at the extra deck, and we go ahead and banish Mirror Jade and their 2 Albion. That last card they drew is Black Chaos. They go Black Chaos effect, set up Mind Shuffle. We summon Agoides. Keep in mind, very important, the Chaos Ritual monsters are affected if targeted, and Agoides does target. So this immediately checks them if they don't go battle to clear Agoides. Alright, so they add the Archfiend, pitch it, Archfiend effect, send the Ritual to add Magician of Black Chaos, Magician of Dark Chaos, Black Chaos, same thing. Ritual spell effect, adding back their Black Chaos, which they then use the Black Chaos effect, putting back their Ritual monster, but that also means the Ritual spell is in hand, so when they summon Black Chaos, we can just Agoides that. Okay, so they're going to shuffle a bunch of their things back. They do need those to summon the Skull Archfiend, but he's just kind of chilling. Chaos Angel swings over our Mechaba. We then trigger Gamma Summon and end step as our Agoides goes away to get back Elysium. Now, I wasn't really sure how I was winning this game because I just didn't pay attention to the battle phase effects of our invoked monsters. So they went also, by the way, Griffo for, you might not have heard of this card, Chaos Mystic Box, which basically, if we target something, they can kind of negate it, I guess. Alright, anyway, we're going to switch our guys to attack position because I just was not reading my own cards. Adding ourselves Alistair Reminiscent, Alistair using his effect, banishing our Caligo, which we probably should have just used last turn, getting us Sword, and let's just do some damage into Chaos Angel. This is when I realized, oh wait, this doesn't work, whatever, let's make a second Aeon, banish all their things, and then loop from the extra Lubellion, Mirror Jade, and Albion, all the cards they put back, basically. So we'll swing in for some more damage, fire Sword again to get us back Invocation and Alistair now. Make SP a little guy, banishing the Skull Archfiend, because once that's banished, it's just gone. They draw a turn. It is Saronir. They banish one for Alistair's. Sure. They can't really swing over anything but SP here, because Alistair in damage step just checks that. So we do have our guys still here, and this is when I finally read the effects of these guys in Grave, and then we're just going to go ahead and actually play the game. We draw Sword for turn, which is very good. Let's go Baron effect, lower this guy down to 0. Use Oceanus effect, making it so Elysium can attack directly, and oh wait, they're at 67? 6-7. Swing direct, and then swing into Saronir with a little bit of a damage to Alistair for a game. Not my best showing of personal gameplay, but... So we're back with the deck, and hey, that's pretty good. Let's talk strengths and weaknesses. First up, the strengths. This deck is very, very versatile. Being able to kind of just flex different things to get to our powerful end board pieces is very nice. Because of the way Invocation and Invocation Sword function, even if we get interrupted by our opponent by, let's say, something like Ash Blossom, or maybe they use a card like Fulos, we could still have an easy setup to getting to one of our powerful extra deck monsters, being able to use those hand traps they just used against us as material. The deck also has a lot of powerful extenders, meaning if we do get interrupted in a way that should stop our turn, we usually have something else to keep going. There's also a big versatility to how we can actually build the deck. This is just a pure version of the deck. There are so many other spellcaster support cards. There's more Magistus cards we could play. There's Fairy Tales we could play. Summon Sork. And it's that synergy which really lets decks like this thrive. The deck also puts up a lot of unique and layered interaction. Things where the opponent might have to play through a floodgate like Oceanus or Kalika, but there's also things where they have to play around the Elysium board wipe, Mechaba, which could be flexing any negate. There's also the insane power of Hyper Invoked Aeon, being able to just banishing any 3 from field or grave, and then with it being so easy to set up the 3 different attributes, we can also just loop so many cards out of the opponent's extra. Against some decks is just an FTK. But with all the strengths does come some weaknesses. The deck isn't perfect into breakers. You can see from the main deck here that we are super spell heavy. This will come up more in Genesis, but the deck is also very weak to specifically Blitzclick. The entire point of the Regulus package is to protect us from things like the Blitz monsters, as well as breakers like Regeki and Lightning Storm. And also our lower powered boards that we have to make if the opponent hits us with a Fulos or Perulia, for instance. While they do function and do set up some interaction, in the way current Yu-Gi-Oh functions, usually a Mechaba pass isn't enough. But with all that said, I genuinely had a blast playing this deck. It's something I've just kind of become obsessed with, and I'm really happy with the version of the deck we have here. Maybe in the future I'll try more of the other variants with the Azamina, the Diabell Star, or the Fairy Tales. But for now, this is the version I'm happiest with. Again, if you haven't checked out Danilo's deck profile or Metafy, go ahead, go check those out, look them up. You can find them on Twitter or on YouTube. Great resources, great player, and I'm really glad I decided after his win to give this deck a shot, because I completely fell in love with it. Alright, that's it for me. Thank you again for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff, and let me know if there's a deck you would like to see me feature on this series. Goodbye.